Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
All right, and welcome to the GSMC Football Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, and as always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. All right, so what we're doing for today's show, since there's no real NFL news going on, we're going to be ranking the drafts from 2009 2014 as far as how successful they were in as far as producing decent quarterbacks. All right, so like I said, 2009 to 2014, and we're going to look at them all, talk about each of them. We're going to start off with 2009 here, probably look at 2010 also, and go 2 and 2 at least. We got 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We got about 6 drafts, so yeah, we'll see. We'll go about 2 in this one, we'll go 2 in the next, and we'll go 1 and 1 in the third and fourth. All right, so that's how it's going to go. I wanted to go 2009, 2014 because I figured now we know what those quarterbacks are looking like. All right, so looking at 2009 draft, I could already see here's already one good one. Matt Stafford taken number 1 by the Detroit Lions. All right, obviously Stafford hasn't necessarily done well as far as the playoffs, but has nonetheless, he's a top 5 quarterback for me, I'd say. Okay. Obviously, like I said, he hasn't really done much in the playoffs. He's only been there 3 times, lost them all 3 times. But, I mean, Stafford puts up decent numbers. Then with the second quarterback taken, that was with the 5th pick. That's Mark Sanchez. That's not necessarily a great quarterback. All right? I mean, he went to 2 AFC championship games. But nonetheless, I mean, we got to assume that that was due to the fact he had a great running back and a great defense. All right. Plus, that's when Rex Ryan was at his best as far as being their head coach. All right, but Mark Sanchez, I mean, definitely, I mean, he did play well. It's just, I don't know, the end of his time with New York was terrible. All right, then you got Josh Freeman taken 17 by the Bucks. Josh Freeman, I mean, he started out good. I'm not really sure what exactly happened with Josh Freeman. Okay, he wasn't like terrible from the start. It's just he completely fell off after a certain point, I'd say. All right, and looking at it, I mean, he played 62 games, 25 and 36. His rookie year, he starts 9 games. They go 3 and 6. All right, his second year, they go 10 and 6. Did they make the playoffs that year? I think they might have. I guess not. Yeah, they were 10 and 6 that year. Those for 3,400 yards, 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Obviously, that doesn't look like a bad game, does it? Or a bad season. 2011, he goes 4. They go 4 and 11. He starts 15 games, nearly 3,600 yards, 16 touchdowns, but 22 interceptions. All right. 2012, he goes 7 and 9. 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. Then he gets cut. All right, well, he plays with the Bucs for 5 games. Then he plays with the Vikings in 2013. Doesn't play 2014, and then 2015, he's out the league after he plays with the Colts. So, I mean, he wasn't terrible, but it's just, I don't know, he just couldn't stay in the league. Okay, so you get Josh Freeman there. Let's see any other quarterbacks taken in this first round. Nope, so that's 3 in the first. Freeman, Sanchez, and Stafford, not necessarily the greatest quarterbacks, besides, of course, Stafford. Then second round comes, Miami takes Pat White. That was obviously a failed pick. Had his career ended after they had a game against the Steelers, left with the game with an injury. Pat White was taken basically to keep the Wildcat offense going. Obviously, that didn't work out, like I said. Just another one of Miami's failed quarterbacks there. Let's see, any other quarterbacks taken in this round? Might have just been Pat White in the second round. And if you got Pat White going in the second round, chances are the rest of these quarterbacks in this draft aren't too good. All right, so looking at the third round, let's see, do we have anyone here? I don't think we do for the third round. How about the fourth? Steve McGee. Well, Texas A&M quarterback got taken by the Cowboys. Obviously, he doesn't really have anything going on in the league. All right, was more of a backup quarterback and now is out the league. All right, let's see any other quarterbacks. Like I said, you got Pat White going in the second round. Chances are these other guys are not that much better. So it's now fifth round. 2009 was not a great year for quarterbacks either, I'd say. You got Nate Davis taken by the San Francisco 49ers, out the league. All right, Tom Bradstander taken by the Denver Broncos. Bradstater, quarterback from Fresno State, out the league. Mike Teal taken by the Seattle Seahawks in the sixth round, out the league. 2009 was a brutal draft for quarterbacks, I'd say. Keith Noll, drafted by the St. Louis Rams, nope. Curtis Painter, he might still be in the league, still might be with the Colts as a backup or a third quarterback, possibly. All right. Seventh round, do we have any quarterbacks taken here? We did not. So yeah, definitely this draft class, definitely one of the weakest as far as quarterbacks. Only one that really turned out to be a decent one, which was Matt Stafford. The others, I mean, I guess Mark Sanchez is honorable mention given the fact that he's been able to stay in the league. All right. But even then, so I mean, I use that term loosely. So obviously 2009 isn't a very strong draft class. He produced one star quarterback. Other than that, I mean, nothing else really going on there. All right. The year after that, 2010, off the top of my head, I can't think of any great quality. It's the Sam Bradford draft, of course. So Bradford goes number 1 to the Rams. All right, drafted out of Oklahoma. Guy was like the highest paid player in the league as soon as he got drafted. And seemingly, even now, is still making a decent amount of money. All right, he's going to be making $20 million this year with the Cardinals. So, I mean, he's doing it right. Let's see. Any other quarterbacks taken in the first round? So I think it might just be Stafford. Tim Tebow, taken by the Broncos. Tebow won a playoff game. I mean, I feel like part of the reason that Tebow was out of the league so early was just because of the media distraction that he caused. All right, that's not necessarily his fault. It's more of an ESPN type thing. I mean, they were covering him all day, every day. All right, that's all you could see on ESPN was Tim Tebow this, Tim Tebow that. All right, and he was one of the more intriguing quarterbacks in the league, but there's just a point where I do think that the media is what got Tebow up out of the NFL. All right, because I mean, of course, he probably wasn't a starting caliber quarterback, but nonetheless, he did win games and he did get a team to the playoffs and win a playoff game against the Steelers, no less. All right, but nonetheless, I mean, Bradford and Tebow not necessarily looking great there in the first round. Second round, let's see, what other quarterbacks do we have? Do we have any quarterbacks in the second round? Jimmy Clausen. Didn't Mel Kiper say that if Jimmy Clausen didn't turn out to be a great quarterback in the NFL, then he quit his job? Something like that? I think it was something similar. Nonetheless, yeah, Jimmy Clausen. I mean, has Notre Dame ever produced a great quarterback besides Joe Montana? I mean, honestly, Jimmy Clausen, I can't think of any other quarterbacks from Notre Dame besides him. Like Brady Quinn, obviously not great. So yeah, Notre Dame not necessarily the greatest college for quarterbacks. All right. So Jimmy Clausen there. Let's see. Gronk came out of this draft too. No other quarterbacks in the second round. How about the third round? Quarterbacks. Colt McCoy, taken by the Cleveland Browns. Colt McCoy, I think, is with the Washington Redskins right now. He's not a great quarterback. He's just a backup quarterback. I mean, he's done well as a backup quarterback, I guess. Hasn't really gotten too many snaps, so can't really judge him from there. But yeah, he's definitely not a great quarterback by any means. All right. Let's see. That was the only quarterback taken in the third. How about in the fourth? And these drafts right here, the 2009-2010, pretty bad. Mike Kafka by the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he got a couple of starts. Other than that, I think he's out the league right now. All right. And no real stars produced in this draft. This might be worse than 2009. And 2009 was pretty terrible. John Skelton. Yep. Another bad quarterback. All right. Backup for the Cardinals for a bit. Other than that, never really did too much. Let's see. Jonathan Crompton. Out the league. And these are some quite the name drops here. Rusty Smith, taken by the Titans, out the league in round 6. Dan Lefevre, Chicago Bears, drafted by out of Central Michigan. He's out too. This might be an all-time worst quarterback draft. Joe Webb has... And then we got Tony Pike, drafted by the Panthers, out of Cincinnati, 7th round. I don't think we had any... And then we got Tony Pike, drafted by the Panthers, out of Cincinnati, 7th round. I don't think we had any quarterbacks in the 7th round taken. We did. Sean Canfield. Yeah, this is an all-time worst quarterback draft right here. Zach Robinson. So many quarterbacks taken and none of them turned out good. So I'd say that 2009 was definitely better than this one, 2010. But nonetheless, I mean, it's not great. Like, it's just, the only thing that makes 2009 better is that you got Matt Stafford here. Okay. 2010, best quarterback was Sam Bradford. And even then, he's not all that great of a quarterback. So definitely 2009, 2010, very weak quarterback drafts. Next up, we'll be looking at 2011 and 2012. All right, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. We spent that first segment talking about the 2009-2010 drafts as far as quarterbacks go. Both of them pretty bad. I mean, Matt Stafford was the best one in 2009. Other than that, every other quarterback there was terrible. And then in 2010, Sam Bradford was the best quarterback there, so that pretty much tells you all you need to know about that draft. Or I think that was the Tebow draft too, so pretty much there's nothing really great going on in 2010 amongst quarterbacks. 2011, though, a bit different. I mean, off the top of my head, you got Cam Newton there at number 1, taken by the Carolina Panthers, obviously, out of Auburn. All right. I mean, that already, I'm assuming, is going to be the best quarterback in this draft because I'm seeing guys like Blaine Gabbert, Jay Locker, so a lot of real nice name drops here. Like I said, Jake Locker got taken by the Titans at number 8 in this draft. Jake Locker's already retired. I mean, his career never really took off. All right. Probably would have been better off just coming out in the draft the year before that just so he could make some money. Then you had Christian Ponder taken by the Minnesota Vikings in 2012. Didn't they make the playoffs one year? I think that was the year where it was basically Adrian Peterson put the team on his back and got him there. All right, I'm almost positive that Christian Ponder went to the playoffs. And looking at Christian Ponder's stats, see how many years did he last in the league? He lasted 4 years. Went 2-8 his rookie year in 10 starts, 1,800 yards, 13 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. 2012, they go 10-6, 2,900 yards, 18 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Let's see, is that the year they go to the playoffs? I believe they did not make the playoffs. All right, so I must have been mistaken there. Or I might be thinking of a different quarterback, but nonetheless. 2013, he only starts 9 games, goes 2-6-1, 1,600 yards, 7 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. In 2014, only starts 1 game. 222 yards, 2 interceptions, then out the league. All right, so obviously he didn't turn out to be a decent quarterback. Blaine Gabbert also, like I said, not a great one at all. Drafted by Jacksonville, never worked out there. Now he's was with the Cardinals. Got some starts this year, was decent. I mean, they won a couple of games with him. Let's see, second round, Andy Dalton. That's a solid quarterback, I'd say. All right, this draft, I'd say, is already better than 2009, 2010 too. All right, but Andy Dalton is a good quarterback when he's got a solid offensive line in front of him. When he doesn't, Andy Dalton tends to play poorly. Okay. But nonetheless, I mean, Andy Dalton's been in the playoffs a few times. It's just a matter of he hasn't been able to win a playoff game yet. All right. And that might just be the Marvin Lewis curse, but nonetheless, I mean, he's done well, I'd say. Looking at his stats, let's see. First year, they go 9-7, starts all 16 games, makes the Pro Bowl. Nearly 3,400 yards, 20 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. 2012, they go 10-6, 27 touchdowns, 16 picks, 3,600 yards. 2013, they go 11-5, throws for 4,200 yards, nearly 4,300 yards, 33 touchdowns, 20 interceptions. 2014, they go 10-5-1, nearly 4,000 yards, 19 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. How do you make the Pro Bowl with that kind of numbers? 2015, he only starts 13 games. They go 10-3 in his 13 starts, 25 touchdowns, 7 picks, 3,200 yards. 2016, they go 6-9-1, 4,200 yards, 18 touchdowns, 18 picks. And then this past year, they go 7-9, 3,300 yards, 25 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Last couple of years, they had a real bad offensive line, so I think that's one of the biggest reasons why he struggled so much, or why they struggled to win. Then you got Colin Kaepernick going 36th to the 49ers. That was a good pick. Got him to a Super Bowl. All right, got him to the playoffs the year after that. It's just a matter of once Harbaugh left, the rest of the team left, and Kaepernick never really had much to work with out in San Francisco once everyone retired. And now he's out the league. Probably won't ever find his way back in. Obviously, you know why. All right, let's see. The year they went to the Super Bowl, that was 2012 season, or was that 2013? Let me look at his postseason numbers. All right. So let's see. Yeah, when they lost to Baltimore, that was 2012. All right. Let's see. First playoff game was against Green Bay. 263 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. 181 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns there. Against the Falcons in the conference championship. 233 yards, 1 touchdown. Let's see. How many yards rushing? 21 yards rushing there. And then against the Ravens, he threw for 300 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 62 yards rushing and a touchdown there. The next year, they lose in the conference championship to the Seahawks. They beat Green Bay the week 1, or in that wild card game, I believe it was. Let's see, he ran for 98 yards in that one, threw for 227 yards, 1 touchdown. Against the Panthers, 996 yards, 1 touchdown passing, 15 yards rushing. Against the Seahawks, he ran for 130 yards, threw for 153 yards, had a touchdown and interception. Wasn't that the Richard Sherman game? I think that was, but nonetheless, I mean, he went 4-2 in the playoffs. That's got to count for something, doesn't it? All right, looking at his numbers after that, I mean, it wasn't necessarily great for him. All right. Went to the 49ers, hasn't been signed to another team since. Let's see, after 2014, they go 8-8. Throws for 3,300 yards, 19 touchdowns, 10 picks. Runs for, let's see, they got that on there. I don't believe they do. All right, 2015, they go 2-6 in his 8 starts. And then 2016, they go 1-10 in his 11 starts. So I'd say he was a pretty solid quarterback. It's just they didn't put any talent around him once Harbaugh and all them left. All right. So there's Kaepernick in the second round. Let's see any other quarterbacks taken in the second round. I think it was just Dalton and Kaepernick. Third round, we got Ryan Mallett. I mean, he had potential to be a decent quarterback, but it's just a point where he didn't have the best head on his shoulders. It was a bit of a head case, I say. All right, remember he got beat out for Ryan Hoyer when they were the Texans, I believe, and since then, I don't think we really heard from Ryan Mallett. Actually, he was with the Ravens, I remember. He was with the Ravens this past season, wasn't he? I believe he was. All right, so you got Ryan Mallett in the third round. Let's see, any other quarterbacks in the third round? I don't believe so. So Ryan Mallett, only quarterback in the third round. How about the fourth? I don't see any quarterbacks in the fourth round here. Fifth, Ricky Stanzi. I think he just got cut from a Canadian football team, if I'm not mistaken, just literally the other day. Might have been 2 days ago. So that's how he's doing. So obviously he didn't work out. The Chiefs took him. Any other quarterbacks in this fifth round? TJ Yates. I mean, he made the playoffs 1 year with the Texans. All right. Didn't he win a playoff game 2 against the Bengals, I believe? I think he did, so Not a great quarterback, but, I mean, he's got a playoff win. Nathan Enderle, taken by the Bears. He's out the league. Round 6. We got Tyrod Taylor. This is the Cam Newton draft, right? We went so far back. I think I forgot. So, yeah, I'd say that Tyrod Taylor probably is the second best quarterback of this draft. Actually, third or fourth. All right. I'd say it was Cam, Dalton, and then I'd say Kaepernick or Tyrod Taylor. All right, but nonetheless, Tyrod Taylor picked in the 6th round. I mean, that's a solid little pick there. All right. I mean, he could be on the Ravens still, except Joe Flacco was playing well at the time. I mean, made the playoffs with the Bills, obviously, this past year. Now he's quarterback of the Browns, so we'll see what he does there. So, yeah, Tyrod Taylor, definitely one of the best quarterbacks taken in the late rounds in this draft. Let's see, any other quarterbacks in that 6th round? No. How about the 7th round? Greg McElroy, Alabama legend right there. Drafted by the Jets. Never really turned out well. I think he's with the SEC network now, so it's a nice little gig there for him. Any other quarterbacks in the 7th round? No. All right, there was not. So I'd definitely say Cam Newton was the best quarterback in this draft. I'd say that this is the best. This is a better draft than 2009 and 2010. All right, let's say yeah, Cam, Dalton, Kaepernick, Tyrod, probably the best 4 quarterbacks in this draft. Christian Ponder, Blaine Gabbert, obviously not. Neither is Jake Locker. All right, it's not the best looking draft, but nonetheless, I mean, as far as quarterbacks, I mean, in this draft you did have Julio, Tyron Smith, Patrick Peterson, AJ Green, Marcel Darius, Von Miller, Nick Fairley, JJ Watt, Nate Solder, Ryan Kerrigan, Mike Pouncey, Robert Quinn, Prince Amukamara, Adrian Claiborne. All right, let's see. Mark Ingram, Muhammad Wilkerson, Cam Hayward. A lot of great players here. Aaron Williams, Jabal Sheard. Guys who have pretty much done well to stay in the league here. Let's see. Kyle Rudolph, Orlando Franklin, Marcus Gilchrist. Yeah, so there's a lot of good talent out here. Let's see, any other gems in the middle rounds? Marcus Gilbert, got taken by the Steelers, solid player there. Randall Cobb, DeMarco Murray. So yeah, this draft was pretty solid as far as quarterback. It's not like really the greatest, but nonetheless, I mean, it's pretty decent. So we're going to wrap it up here. Next up, we're going to be talking about the 2012 draft. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. So far, we've talked about the 2009, 2010, 2011 drafts as they pertain to quarterbacks selected in those respective drafts. Now we're going to be talking about 2012. I'd say the best draft as far as quarterbacks we've talked about so far is 2011. 2009 comes after that, and then it'd be 2010. 2010 was the one with Bradford, Tebow, and just a bunch of other terrible quarterbacks taken that year. All right, now we're going to talk about 2012. 2012 probably is going to end up being the best one we talk about, just given the fact there's a lot of good players here. Or at least it looked like there was going to be. All right, so we got Andrew Luck. He got taken number 1. I mean, was the right pick. It's just the guy hasn't been able to stay healthy. Okay? Jim Mercy said that for training camp, he's going to be back with no restrictions. Or Andrew Luck said he's going to be ready to go, no doubt, by week 1. So I guess that's a plus. It's just a matter of Is Andrew Luck going to be the same guy we saw before he got injured? All right, or is this going to be kind of like a watered down type of Andrew Luck here? And I mean, that's a possibility. It seemed like this rehab for his shoulder injury included a lot of setbacks, and normally players don't come back the same after shoulder injuries like that. All right, Drew Brees is one of the few that actually did, so I mean, it's going to be real interesting to see. But nonetheless, before he got hurt, he was one of the best 5 quarterbacks in the league. So, like I said, it was the right quarterback by the Colts. You just would have hoped that they would have put solid talent around him instead of just expecting him to do it all on his own. So yeah, Andrew Luck obviously was a great quarterback taken at number 1. Then we had RG3 taken number 2. He'd still be a starting quarterback in the league and probably be a top 10 quarterback in the league if not for his injuries. All right, RG3 doesn't blow out his knee twice or whatever and then hurt his shoulder, then he's still starting for a team. I don't think Mike Shanahan and the coaching staff out there really wanted him out there. I think it was more of a Dan Snyder wanted him out there. All right, now he's with the Ravens. He's their backup quarterback. He could get some time this season given the fact that Joe Flacco has been outright terrible the last few years. All right, but I think this is going to be more of a tryout for like a different team as far as an audition to see whether or not he could still be a starting quarterback. All right, I'm curious to see if we could still find the same old RG3. If not, I mean, I doubt it's given all the injuries, but I mean, he was on his way to being a very good quarterback in this league. So you had him taking number 2, and then Ryan Tannehill taking number 8. I guess the jury's still out on Tannehill. All right, I mean, he's looked good, he's looked bad, he's looked great, he's looked terrible. And this is the year where I think Miami's finally going to realize what exactly they have here. All right, 2016 was Adam Gase's first year coaching that team. They went 10-6 that season. Tannehill was 8-5 before he tore his ACL, was having a career year. Next year, he comes back in training camp. They're expecting him to do big things. He ends up re-tearing his ACL, or completely tearing it, I should say, because he didn't get surgery after the first tear. And now he got the surgery, and it seems like he's going to be ready to go. He was already at OTAs, minicamp, and all with no restrictions. So this is the year Miami's going to see whether or not they have their franchise quarterback. All right, he restructured his deal and whatnot too, so they already front-loaded him all his money. So Allen's pretty much letting him play out his contract. So we'll see what happens here. But like I said, I mean, he did look great under Adam Gase in 2016. Any other quarterbacks taken in the first round here in 2012? Brandon Weeden. I don't know what the Browns were thinking. Wasn't Brandon Weeden about 27, 28 years old at the time? All right. Sure, he looked great at Oklahoma State, but usually you got to think, have any quarterbacks that old in their rookie year played well? I'd say no, and I'd say there's probably not too many at that age, if any. All right. But of course, it is the Browns, and of course, they are always going to give us something to laugh about. And that was this pick right here, Brandon Weeden at number 22. And that does bring down the greatness of this draft a bit. All right, let's see. So Brandon Weeden was the last quarterback taken in that first round. Second round, did we get any quarterbacks taken here? And Kirk Cousins was taken in this draft too. We have Brock Osweiler. I mean, Brock Osweiler, as far as him being a starting quarterback, is not one. But he could find himself as a backup going forward. So, I mean, he's done well to stay in the league. I'll just say that. All right, so Brock Osweiler taken in the second round. Third round, let's see. Who do we have in the third round? I don't think there's any quarterbacks taken in the third round there. Fourth round, how about that one? Kirk Cousins taken in the fourth round by the Redskins. Redskins completely botched that whole little situation with Kirk and RG3. I mean, you had 2 great quarterbacks. Now you ended up without either of them. Of course, they did bring in Alex Smith, who I think is a top 10 quarterback, but it's just a point where, I mean, you drafted these guys. How do you let them slip through your fingers like that? I'm not sure why they never really extended Kirk Cousins. They never seemed to want to. And then with RG3, like I said, I mean, they never really wanted him from the beginning except for ownership. And once he got hurt, that was their way of pretty much just tossing him to the curb. All right, but definitely, the Redskins did mess that up. But of course, they did select 2 good quarterbacks in this draft. So you got Kirk Cousins in the fourth round. Let's see, anyone else in the fourth round besides Kirk? I don't believe so. Fifth round. Not too many quarterbacks taken in this draft, but a lot of solid ones, I'd say. None taken in the fifth round. Sixth round, possibly. I don't believe so. Actually, Ryan Lindley. I mean, usually when you're picking down here, 6th, 7th round type of thing, you're not really going to find too many great players. All right, Ryan Lindley definitely wasn't one of them. Let's see. How about the 7th round? Any quarterbacks taken in the 7th round? We did not have any quarterbacks taken in the 7th round. Actually, we did. B.J. Coleman taken by the Green Bay Packers. He's out the league. And then Chandler Harnish from Northern Illinois taken by the Colts. He's out the league. Actually, never mind. Yeah, B.J. Coleman. So I'd say the best 4 quarterbacks in this draft are Cousins, Luck, and this is in no order, but Cousins, Luck, Tannehill. And then, would you say RG3? I mean, he did start out hot, but he never really exceeded his expectations. Like, he never really got a chance. So I'd say, yeah, RG3 probably, just given his ability and all. I mean, this is a pretty nice draft as far as players, too. You got Luke Kuechly. Obviously, he's one of the best linebackers in the game. You got Justin Blackman. If he didn't get into so much trouble and all that, then he'd probably still be in the league and probably would be a top 5 receiver right now. He kind of went the Josh Gordon route, but of course didn't get his things fixed up, and I highly doubt he ever makes a comeback to the NFL. All right, Trent Richardson, one of the biggest busts of all time, I'd say. Let's see, Mark Barron, he's more of a linebacker now. Stephon Gilmore, playing starting cornerback for the Patriots. Dontae Poe, Fletcher Cox, very solid player for the Eagles. Bruce Irvin, he's done pretty well for himself over his career. Drake Kirkpatrick, Melvin Ingram. The Chargers just paid him recently. Chandler Jones. Let's see, Whitney Merciless. Harrison Smith, one of the best safeties in the league. Doug Martin. Let's see, how about the second round? Any top players here? Janoris Jenkins, he was a bit of a good cornerback. Alshon Jeffrey, Michael Kendricks, Bobby Wagner. There's a lot of real good players in this draft. Zach Brown. All right, let's see. Anyone else? Levante David. There's a lot of starters on this in here. Kelechi Osemele. Let's see. Am I missing anyone else? How about the third round? We've done pretty well for these first 2 rounds, I'd say. Olivier Vernon, one of the highest paid defensive ends. Russell Wilson. How do we miss Russell Wilson? So I'd say Russell Wilson, Tannehill, Luck, Cousins, the best quarterbacks in this draft. This draft definitely is the best one that we've looked. I don't know how I forgot about Russell Wilson in this draft. All right. But nonetheless, yeah, this draft is definitely the best one we've talked about so far. All right. And that's why we double check things, kids, because we always miss something. But nonetheless, this draft is way better in 2009. It's way better than 2011. It's way better than 2010. So Russell Wilson definitely. I mean, he's already got a Super Bowl. He's played in 2. All right. Arguably a top 5 quarterback in the league right now. And it's just a matter of, I mean, with the Seahawks this season, we've talked about it. Defense doesn't really look too great. Offense isn't necessarily anything to be scared about, meaning if you're a defense, you're not too scared of the offense. You got Brandon Marshall and Doug Baldwin there. Doug Baldwin, fine, that's a good receiver, but Brandon Marshall, 2 years removed from one of his best seasons. All right, 34 years old, coming off of a season-ending injury. I mean, how many quarterbacks do you know that have, or wide receivers do you know that have played well at that age, coming off of a season-ending injury? All right, not too many at all. But nonetheless, Russell Wilson does elevate the players around him, does elevate their play. Maybe they could make the playoffs this season, but I wouldn't necessarily count on it. But I would say that Russell Wilson may be the best quarterback in this draft, unless Andrew Luck is healthy. All right, so let's see any other good players that we missed. T.Y. Hilton. Great receiver, Lamar Miller. Let's see, anyone else? Nigel Bradham. This might just be one of the best drafts like in NFL history if we're looking at it. All right, just looking at all the starters in this draft. Let's see, Mike Daniels. Round 5, we got any gems here. Malik Jackson, he's playing for the Jaguars now, I believe, on that great defensive line. Brandon Marshall, linebacker. Let's see, who else? We missing anyone else here in the 5th round? Marvin Jones. He's done well so far for the Lions. Played well with the Bengals, too, when he was there. Alfred Morris. Let's see. Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of great players here. Donovan Trevathan. Got a nice little contract with the Bears after playing well with the Broncos. Manuel Acho. There's a lot of solid talent here. Let's see, any 7th-round gems right here. It's going to be tough. Rashard Matthews playing well with the Titans. Did well with the Dolphins. He's a starter. Anyone else? I'd say that's probably it right there. Yeah, that's a real solid draft right here, I'd say. Definitely, as far as quarterbacks, this draft is way better than 2011 and 2009. So I'd say right now, as far as the drafts that we've ranked, 2012 is first, 2011 is second, 2009 is third, and 2010 is fourth. Next, we're going to be talking about 2013 and 2014. Then we'll be wrapping up the show. So stay tuned for that, and I will be right back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. So far, we've been talking about the 2009 through 2014 drafts. Now we're going to be talking about the 13 and 14 drafts in this segment, but nonetheless, been looking at the drafts as far as quarterbacks are concerned. 2012 has been the best one. 2011 was the second best. 2009 third, and then 2010 fourth. So now we got to get to 2013, 2014. And let me tell you, 2013 wasn't necessarily the greatest one ever. That might be worse than the 2010 one. All right, and I think it is worse because we got E.J. Manuel being the first quarterback off the board here to the Bills. I mean, he's the backup quarterback for the Raiders right now, but even then, so he's not even that great at that. He's the only quarterback taken in this first round, too, mind you, so you already know how this draft's going to turn out. Second round, Geno Smith ends up going to the Jets. I mean, Geno Smith had a couple of good games for the Jets. Other than that, it was pretty terrible. Backup quarterback for the Giants this past season. Now I think he's trying to look for a new job. And Geno's just never really been a great quarterback. That's all you could say about him. All right. Third round, let's see. Mike Glennon. He had one solid season with Tampa Bay, I think it was. All right. Then Chicago ends up giving him a 3-year, $45 million deal, which was ridiculous. All right. He gets cut. Now he's with the Cardinals and probably won't have a job there much for long, given the fact that they got Bradford and Josh Rosen there. And I'm assuming that after this season, it'll be Josh Rosen's team. So Mike Glennon, obviously not the best player there. Let's see any other quarterbacks taken in that third round. Nope. Fourth round, Matt Barkley. Not a great pick. Was a decent quarterback at USC, but nonetheless, never really did much for himself in the NFL. Then you had Ryan Nassib. I mean, I'm not even sure he's in the league anymore. Okay. Landry Jones. Probably one of the worst backup quarterbacks I've ever seen. I mean, it's crazy how you go from, like not even Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell could make this guy play well. All right. Tyler Wilson got taken by the Raiders in this draft out of Arkansas. Had a decent arm at Arkansas, but nonetheless, never really did much for the Raiders when he got an opportunity. Let's see, who else do we have in this draft? In the fifth round, I don't believe anyone taken in the fifth round there. There was not. How about the sixth round? Sixth round, nope, not either here. Seventh round, did we get a quarterback? Brad Sorensen, drafted by the San Diego Chargers, he's out the league. Let's see, Zach Dissert, drafted by the Denver Broncos. He's gone from practice squad to practice squad, but hasn't really ever done much. Let's see, anyone else? Nope, that's it. So this might be the worst one that we've looked at so far, I'd say. All right, I mean, there's not necessarily a decent quarterback here. It's actually pretty bad. All right. I mean, the best quarterback in this draft might just end up being Mike Glennon, I'd say. Like, that's how bad it was. I'd say, yeah, probably Mike Glennon as far as being the best quarterback. So this is definitely the worst one we've looked at. This is definitely worse than 2010 with Tebow and Bradford. But nonetheless, I mean, as far as other players, skilled position players in this draft, I mean, Lane Johnson was a solid player. Ezekiel Ansah. All right, let's see. Sheldon Richardson, Star Lotulelei. There's not a lot of great talent here. Desmond Trufant, at least. Xavier Rhodes. DeAndre Hopkins. I think Le'Veon Bell got picked up in this draft too, I believe. Travis Frederick, obviously a great center. Zach Ertz, top 3 tight end for sure. Let's see, Le'Veon Bell, he got taken in the second round by Pittsburgh. That's definitely the best player of this draft. All right. Anyone else? Monty Ball went in this draft. He was a great running back for Wisconsin, but never really got it done in the NFL. Robert Alford, also a great cornerback for the Falcons. Travis Kelce, so 2 of the top 3 tight ends in the league right now got taken in this 2013 draft. Tyrann Mathieu, great player. TJ McDonald, starting safety for the Dolphins. He's done well. Keenan Allen. Marquise Goodwin just got an extension with the 49ers. Marcus Wheaton, I think, was more of a bust. People expected a lot out of him, probably because he was from Oregon State and played for the Steelers, and they usually do well to develop their players, but he never really came out to being a decent player for them. Jordan Reed, but the poor guy couldn't stay healthy. Let's see. Are we missing anyone else? Brandon Williams, a solid defensive tackle for the Ravens. Keem Spence, I think he's with the Dolphins now too. Unless I'm thinking of someone else. Let's see. So yeah, I mean the talent isn't great, but nonetheless it was a decent little draft. As far as the quarterbacks, it was brutal. Alright. Let's look at 2014 now. See what we're working with there. So I'd say right now it goes 2012 being the best draft, then 2011, 2009, 2010, and then 2013. This is the Blake Bortles draft. I mean, Blake Bortles isn't a bad quarterback. He's not a great quarterback, but he did well this past season, I'd say. He was the first quarterback off the board here, taken by the Jaguars, the 3rd pick in the draft. All right. Let's see, any other quarterbacks taken in this first round? Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel, for me, definitely one of the most exciting college football players ever to watch. Now he's with is it the Hamilton Tiger Cats? I think it is. The Hamilton Tiger Cats. All right. Is he ever going to make it back to the NFL? I wouldn't count on it. He's got to pretty much prove himself over in Canada, and he's probably going to spend at least 2 years there. All right. So, I mean, I think it was just a matter of he didn't really take it too serious, the NFL. Wasn't really giving it his full effort, wasn't really putting his full attention to it. And I think now if he were to come back, maybe he could find himself in a backup role. I mean, Johnny Manziel even could become a starter. He did have talent. It's just a matter of can he apply it over to the NFL. So we'll see how he does over in Canada. But as of right now, I mean, I'd say he's a bust for a quarterback in the NFL. And you had Teddy Bridgewater. If not for his pretty much awful knee injury, he's starting for the Vikings right now. I guess he's looked good so far in minicamp with the Jets, been making a lot of good decisions, been impressing the team. I mean, maybe you could have Teddy Bridgewater become a starting quarterback for the team this season. All right, and if he has a good year, then that makes the Jets able to trade him possibly. Well, he's only got a 1-year deal actually, so he plays well with the Jets this season. Then I'm sure he could find himself a starting job somewhere else next year, just given the fact that he's still pretty young. All right, and if it shows that his knee injury is held up and he's fine, then why not take Teddy Bridgewater? We all know what he could do. All right, so that was the first round. Second round, you had Derek Carr. Last year didn't look too good. I think that was just the point where he came back too early from his fractured back injury, but nonetheless, definitely the quarterback for the Raiders in the future. Let's see, what other quarterbacks did we have here? Jimmy Garoppolo, now playing for the 49ers, got taken by the Patriots. I mean, it looks like he's going to be a very decent quarterback. All right, so this QB draft class, obviously we got to wait to see some more people develop, but nonetheless, it looked good on paper so far. All right, then let's see, for the 4th round, or round 3 actually. Anyone taking the 3rd round? I don't believe so. All right, how about the 4th round? Logan Thomas, he got moved to tight end. I think he was on the Cardinals for a bit. Now he's just kind of bouncing around practice squad to practice squad. Tom Savage, not really the greatest quarterback for the Texans. Got an opportunity last year, only for a week. That didn't work out. Then they threw in Deshaun Watson. And now Tom Savage is pretty much going to be a backup quarterback for the rest of his career. Let's see, quarterbacks in the 5th round. A.J. McCarron. Jerry's still out on him. All right, going to be a starting quarterback for the Bills, at least till I guess he blows it, or I guess till if he doesn't. All right, Josh Allen is the guy that they want to be starting in the future, so we'll see how long A.J. McCarron's got left in Buffalo. And A.J. McCarron, I mean, he's shown flashes of what he could be. It's just he hasn't really gotten too much of an opportunity. Then you got Zach Battenberger in the 6th round. He's out the league. David Fales, he's the backup quarterback for the Dolphins. He's a decent backup, I'd say. He looked pretty good in their Week 17 game against the Bills. Keith Wenning, taken by the Baltimore Ravens. He's out the league. Let's see. Taj Boyd, he's out the league. He was a solid quarterback over at Clemson, but other than that, never did much. Garrett Gilbert from SMU, he's out the league now too, taken by the Rams in the 6th round. How about the 7th round? Quarterbacks in the 7th round, I believe. So this draft, it's got some decent players. There's no star quarterbacks or anything like that. No top 5 guys, but Derek Carr's a solid quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater, Blake Bortles. I say that those are probably the 3 best quarterbacks of this draft, all right? So, as far as the draft classes we've looked at, I'd say that 2012 definitely is number 1. Then I'd go 2011. I'd say 2014 next. Then 2009. 2009, they did have Stafford, but that's pretty much it. And then I go 2011 and then 2013 as my last. All right. So, obviously it's difficult to get a great quarterback. All right. They don't necessarily grow on trees. All right, so that's why we see these teams. Like yesterday, we were talking about teams whose Super Bowl window was closing. There's no telling that Mason Rudolph's going to turn out to be a decent quarterback for the Steelers. There's no telling that Bill Belichick's going to be able to pick another Tom Brady or Jimmy Garoppolo for that matter. All right, Denver's been looking for a quarterback since Manning retired. And then you get the Saints. Yeah, you got a lot of good young players, but what happens when Drew Brees retires? You're going to draft another great quarterback? It's obviously not that easy, so we'll see what ends up happening. But nonetheless, we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks for listening to the GSMC Football Podcast. As always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. I will be back tomorrow, so I will talk to you guys later. Stay tuned.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.